this is my tree, and this is me. It's real smooth, and people think I'm calm and patient, but it's really because the waves and the water have washed over so many times to get over the rough edges. So Rox and I go way back, and so I couldn't help be thinking about my own childhood. And I had a tree in Connecticut. It was actually 3 trees that grew together, and you could sit in it like a throne. And then you couldn't see the house then because the tree was all behind you, but in front there was a rock wall because it was Connecticut, and there were rock walls everywhere. And if you jumped over the rock wall, then you were in the forest. And they couldn't build anything back there because way over there were more rocks and a big swamp. So anyway, there were rocks everywhere. And in Connecticut, I helped my mom build a rock garden with a rock retaining wall. Then later, years later, I moved to Missouri with my husband, and his family always went to the river, which was nothing but rock. No dirt, no sand. Every year you went back to the river, it had shifted, and you saw a new place, and it would divide different ways. So I was thinking about all the times I played with rocks. My kids played with rocks. My grandkids played with rocks. My daughter got married on a rock. So these, she really did, yeah. Rehearsal dinner, someone fell off the rock, not from our party, but we waited for the helicopter to come, and that was the rehearsal. But anyway, that was in Shawnee National Forest. So anyway, I could go on and on about rocks. But so this is our family tree, my kids and their families, and this has really inspired me to be more intentional with what I already love. So, and I have my little rock collection at home.
My name is Miriam Żmijewski-Angelowa. I'm the preschool program manager for Daybreak Star Indian Cultural Center at Preschool, which is in Seattle, Washington. And I really enjoyed being able to do this activity just because we have our preschool is inside of the Indian Cultural Center, so we're surrounded by nature, and our Mother Earth is really important to us, and stones are very significant as well. They're not just they're just not a resource. There's spirits that are within them as well. So a lot of the times in the sweat lodge, which is what the orientation of the stones kind of reminded me of. We have our grandfather stones that we bring into the lodge, which help us with our healing and ceremony. So, so I made the title Inside the Lodge, and so it's my drawing of it. And so I wrote, so inside the lodge. When I'm inside the sweat lodge, it's warm and cozy, dark and enclosed. You smell the sage and sweetgrass in the wet air. The medicine that heals the soul. The songs that you hear being sung lift your heavy heart. The men and or women, depending on what type of lodge it is, are gathered around the grandfather stones in the center, and they begin to grow from gray to a hot red and then eventually cool down to a soft black ash. It's like being inside of a womb. It's a safe place. It's a place I feel welcomed. It's the place I first felt my son kick inside of me and churn in delight as he smelled the medicine in the air. It's the place I go whenever possible to clear my mind, my heart, and my spirit. Every child deserves to have a lodge.
Hi, Nina. Come on.
Hi, Nina.
We're still moving.
I didn't know where we were going with this. Your presentation was excellent. Because I was like, where is she going with these about the rocks? I had no idea.
Thank you for trusting me.
And my presentation, it deals with me a little bit about my house because I'm at the place right now at Peace Be Still. But I took it to another level because I do love nature. So this presentation is about I like my house. I like my house. It looks like different shapes. At the bottom of the house is a square at the top. And I'm thinking on how kids think, right? So the square at the top of the house, the roof, it looks like a triangle. Our door looks like a rectangle. When I go outside, the sun looks like a circle and the clouds have funny shapes. And of course you see the clouds is white, so I did the white presentation. The house is kind of rosy and pink, and the door is black. The best thing is when Mom and Dad walk me down the black road to go to the park, and I find my favorite tree. We sit down, Mom reads to me every time, which is my favorite book. We walk back to the house, back to my favorite house. And of course you see the road is back, and then you see the house, you see the tree, and the tree is brownish. And that's my story.
I decided, I said, I really at one point in my life to just kind of settle on the beach. And this is what I came up with. This is my picture here. And then I wrote a little something that just really resonates with me, because when I think, I live right at the lake currently, and on several occasions I will make my way up to the lake and just enjoy the tranquility of life itself and just the beauty of the waves. And so I kind of wrote just a little something. It's called My Beach House. It says, my house is on the beach with its tall windows for gazing onto the smooth tan sand. I gaze with excitement, but yet calmness enters my body. The smell of fresh air creeps up my nose, and the sense of peace enters my body. The waves brush up against one another as if they're dancing. The sky is so clear I can see as far as the sky touches the water. And the birds sing a song of joy. How can one not wonder, is there a higher being? Of course there is. He created such beauty and tranquility. I am blessed. So it reminded me so much of me just walking up to the lake and just being. And so at one point in my life, I'd like to just literally be on. And enjoy. So I love to use this with my students, my pre-K students at this time. My kids are so vivacious and so creative that I really do believe that they would really enjoy this.
So my name's Iris. I teach preschool here in Chicago. I grew up in rural Kansas, so lots of stones, rocks, nature everywhere. I had a rock collection as a child. My son just turned 4 last week, and he also is a big, in fact, one of the women here was his teacher last summer, and we always called him Nature Boy, because they would send the kids out to the playground and everyone else was climbing things, and he's around the perimeter picking up pine cones and stones, and his cubby is always full of bits and pieces. But anyway, I was really intrigued by the layering and the lines in these stones. So I kind of started with that, and I kind of tried to recreate those layers with the different pieces I had, and tried to kind of balance, when I was collecting stones, I didn't have the layers in mind. When I was collecting them, I was really interested in pieces that had chips missing. So I was already kind of thinking about fitting them into each other, but I didn't really have a plan until I started looking at these lines that kind of remind me of the sandstone and the Flint Hills in Kansas. So
Can you hold up your picture?
yes. So here's my picture. I was trying to capture. It was really cool. The light right here cast a lot of great reflections and shadows. So I was trying to capture that as well as the different shades of the stones. So I call this balance, mostly because I was just trying to balance the pieces on top of each other. And I've actually noticed a couple have fallen since we've left, but that's okay. My story isn't really a story about the rocks. It's more of my process that I just said. I first became intrigued by the shading and lines on the smaller stones toward the front. I wanted to recreate the layers by finding how many stones fit together. And as far as my classroom, I'm a big fan of loose parts play. So I always have acorns, pine cones, and lots of stones, but I've never done just stones by themselves, which is funny because at home, we actually, and this is a good tip for teachers too, Home Depot sells river rocks
Oh, wow.
in like big, like 20-pound bags, and it's like $3.50 or something. So we had a deck we had a deck, we just moved to a house, but anyway, we tried to make a sandbox for my son. And unfortunately, all the sand kept falling down into our downstairs neighbor's deck, and it was creating some strife. So we decided to get rid of the sand, and we got these rocks, and they reminded me a lot of like kind of the variety. And my son was really into like picking out these different rocks and finding like the different colors and pieces. So even though it's something that I've done with my own child, I never thought about like bringing that into the class. So I think I'm gonna have to go pick up a bag of river rocks.
So this is called the snowman, and I think it was just inspired by living in California, not getting snow, and then coming here.
We'll send it there.
And I wrote a story.
I would love it.
Should I read it?
Yeah.
So once upon a time, there was a snowman standing alone in the cold, dark forest. He was lonely, so he decided to make some friends. He began making snowballs and created a snowball family. All was well, and he wasn't lonely anymore. They played, told stories, and had fun talking. Eventually, they all got very cold, and one of the children asked to make a fire. The other laughed, saying that was impossible because they would melt. Then she had an idea. They would make a magic force field that would protect them from anything. Slowly, they began building the fire, and just as expected, they didn't melt. They sat and enjoyed the warmth and safety together. So you can see those are the snowmen. This is the fire, and I thought the shinier rocks
It does feel like
represent like the warmth and the circle of protection.
So I just started playing with it and was just based on the figure. So I figured that it was going to resemble a person. Then the more I went along, the more I kind of felt like the bottom sort of resembled a mermaid. And then I kind of felt like there was a story in my head of a mermaid pointing out someone, either someone within her, like if she has some sort of brain under the sea, either that or pointing towards a land. I also got one with a really sparkly one, so that was kind of like almost like a flower in her hair.
Developmentally, you go where they're at.
Right, where they're at.
And so if they're not ready to, the first, like in Nepal, for the first couple of years, I could just get them to do the Stonework play. Then we got the title. And then one person who could write would do the writing. So it's okay. It's a lifelong process. And then I've done it with seniors and with special needs. And when I go to Malaysia, we're doing it all around the country.
It depends on the day. Depends on the day. And in my classroom, I teach 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. And this depends on the day. If my kids are working well together, they can make the Sears Tower. And most of the time, they're not making the Sears Tower. So I just was trying to think of something, and it just happened on Monday. On Monday they were, and it was a Monday, and they were just playing nicely. And it was, wow. And then on Tuesday, chaos broke out. What happened? You're not the same children. But I have to say, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I really enjoyed it.
This show here is like one of my little 3-year-olds, and she's holding her heart stone for the first time. And part of my introduction to it would be playing games, so just vocabulary. Put the heart, put the stone on your head, on your shoulder, learning body parts. So that's her in her little speech bubble saying stone for the first time. And then it's can I move? This is a movable. So now this girl is in 3rd grade, because that's the next grade I teach. This is 2 years later, with the hopes that they do this, yearly. So now we're trying to take it to the next level. So she's holding the heartstone again, but now instead of just saying the word, she's creating it into a story, trying to build on her prior knowledge and vocabulary and get creative. And this is the little book, the story that she's written through the stone. And then from there, after doing it throughout the years and becoming really comfortable with it, here's the big heart showing her feelings and sharing her emotions, and all of these coming off of them are all of her her ability to express her different feelings and emotions about certain things.
There's a book, I have it, I didn't bring it, it's just Stones of Hearts. It's a little one, it's beautiful. I'll send you the...
Okay, the link.
And as soon as you said the 3-year-old, I'm like, oh, look at her, because you can see how, and the whole thing is made, put a smile on my face the whole time you were talking, just because you see it, and we see it as educators of how the process is anyway, whether they're little or big, you still have those aha discovery love of our stone going,
My passion is listening to children. I think that that's a huge thing. So I thought it was funny that you had a heart, because I found a teeny tiny little heart stone here that my little person has. And so, do you want me just to read my story? So this is the story of a small, very quiet child. She lives in the land of the dark stones. She's heard about the land of the swirly stones. It's over here. And because several of her friends have actually gone there. She knows that a great staircase of stones needed to be climbed before she could reach the land of the swirly stones. This very quiet small child did not believe she was strong enough to climb the staircase of stone. She longed to see the beautiful swirly stones she heard others describe. This small child meets someone who believes she can climb the staircase. She begins to believe she can too. And then this is a picture upon her return from the staircase that she was able to climb. She throws up her arms in joy as she feels so proud of her accomplishments.
Okay.
How did I feel? Well, I think this speaks to my passion of, I really believe children can do anything. I just think someone needs to be still enough, be quiet enough,